Pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
All right. Let's see. Madam Clerk, will you call the roll?
Mr. Bradford?
Here.
Mr. Everson?
Here.
Mr. Jenkins? Mr. Corbin?
Here.
Mr. Fleury?
Here.
Ms. Lynch? Here. Mr. Bowman?
Here. All right. And tomorrow I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the Administrative Conference meeting of March 9th and the City Council meeting of Tuesday, March 10th. And let's see. At this point, does any council member have any awards recognitions for today? All right. And Mayor Tyler, you don't have any communications at this point?
Not today.
Great, thank you. Tomorrow, now this script to me, I guess it feels like it's tomorrow's.
Is it today's or tomorrow's?
It says administrative conference, but I'm reading it as if it feels like tomorrow's script. So there's a few things extra on here, but that's okay. I'll wing it. If I ask anybody to give a report that you know you're not supposed to give today, just forgive me. There you go. But I will mention just briefly that tomorrow I think we have a revenue collection plan report, and last meeting or last time we had one, we had all received it electronically, and we certainly appreciate that. The report was great, but for the benefit of the public, we probably should repeat that on the record and just give a brief synopsis of it.
Be glad to.
Have a little bit of a.
Yeah, took us a little. The new logo system has given us some challenges in extrapolating that data.
Yeah.
So it was a little late in coming out of purchasing, but
Great.
be glad to talk about it tomorrow.
No problem. Well, thank you very much. I think, like I say, it's just helpful that we can get that on the record, make sure the public has document of it. And let's see, tomorrow is going to be our the second meeting of the month. Yeah, so we don't have a surety bond report. We do have a master plan committee report tomorrow. Okay, great. So we will have a master plan committee report tomorrow, and Mr. Sweeney will tell us a little bit about the upcoming master plan committee meeting that's happening. Doesn't look like there's a public hearing tomorrow, so I guess we're on to adding items to the agenda.
We have one item. It's a resolution nominating persons for consideration by the mayor for appointment to the DDA.
And this is something that I'm putting forward now. Just to let everybody know, this process is very different than most of our nomination processes, in that typically the mayor makes an appointment choice and gives it to the council for confirmation. In the process for a DDA board member, what happens is the council provides a list of several people to the mayor, and then the mayor makes the final selection amongst that list. So what I've done and have offered here, and what we'll be introducing tomorrow, is a list of several people who had expressed interest to the DDA about serving on their board. And so those are the names that I have. If somebody else has an additional name that you'd like to be considered, feel free to amend the legislation and add some additional names. I think we could add two.
It says,
Do we have a list?
the law says that 7 names for 2 positions.
Oh, that's what they're saying.
And so we only have one position being filled right now. So,
So I guess you can still do 7. I suppose.
yeah, so we could
How
provide.
many positions are there total?
There are
only
7 positions on the DDA board. The council members nominate 2 of the people. The mayor appoints those 2, and then it's confirmed. There are a number of other organizations that also nominate people, and the mayor appoints based on those nominations also.
But-
so it's a total of 7.
But on this go-round, we are only reappointing one person, not the 2 appointments, because only one person has resigned, and so we're not filling expired terms. We're just appointing somebody to fill in a resigned space on the board. So again, it's not completely clear, but somewhere between, I put 3 names out there that had expressed interest in serving it. If everybody,
And Mr. Chairman,
wants
the
to
names
come
that you're submitting, are those names that showed they gave you interest? They said to you that they were interested in the TDA.
They submitted the names to the DDA, and then I'm offering this legislation. So I'm the author of this legislation, and I'm presenting those names. I did receive communication from one of the applicants directly, and so those are included in mine. And so that's what I'm doing now, is offering the council an opportunity to add some additional names.
And my question is that the process that they submit their names to the DDS for?
Well,
That's
the
how
law-
it seems to have worked in the past. I mean, either they submit their names to the council clerk, or they submit their names to the DDA, or they submit their names to the mayor. To be honest, this doesn't happen very often. So it's.
State law doesn't mention the DDA submitting names to the council. It simply says that the council can nominate up to 7 persons to the mayor. The mayor then chooses 2. Of course, there aren't 2 this time to be chosen, but the mayor then chooses 2 from that list of 7 to be on the DDA.
And my concern is that, and I hadn't seen the names, I don't know, I haven't even researched the names that are currently on the board, but I can remember our very first meeting when Councilman Fleury raised the issue regarding the diversity as well as the overall council districts being represented throughout our city in various boards and committees. So I'm just saying that.
So there are, when we should say in the legislation, does it reference the qualifications? Because there are certain, so people who are nominees to this board, and I appreciate you asking, because they don't have to come from a recommendation of the DDA. Certainly, they come from any member of the council if you like. But they do have to meet certain qualifications, like they have to live in.
I think they either have to live in the district,
Okay.
or they have to have an office in the district. But I can send everybody the legislation.
Yeah.
I'll email it to everybody.
I mean, this may not be the example that I'm trying to accomplish as it relates to the diversity and representation throughout districts. But I'm just saying, I want to be conscientious that
About that.
as we move forward,
Certainly.
that we will have opportunity to have people from various districts represented in various boards and committees.
Certainly, and I think that's what I'd like to invite everybody to do. If you have somebody that you think would serve well. And in terms of diversity, I will say there is there is ethnic diversity on the board, but there is a lack of gender diversity on the board. Certainly, the person who resigned from the board was the only woman on the board. So, if we'd like to get some more females, or if there's somebody who you think that could be a good representative, that would be a good thing to consider.
Thank you, Mr.
I'll
Chairman.
get us a current list of the board, too.
Yeah, we can do that.
What's that?
A current
current.
list of the board. A current list of the DDA board.
And Stephanie, I
That
see
was
you're
it.
on the speaker queue. Was
That
that
was
what
it.
it was? Okay, great. So that's the only thing that we have to be added tomorrow. Is that correct? Art?
Right, that's correct.
Great. Okay. At this point, let's see. We have no confirmations or appointments on there tomorrow either. We are now down to consent agenda. We have adoption of resolutions and ordinances. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Resolution 43 suspends certain provisions of Chapter 10 and Chapter 106 relative to alcoholic beverages on April the 12th, 2015, relative to dispensing sales and or consuming of alcoholic beverages at 4801 Line Avenue for the Wine Country Bistro's Wine and Swine event. Resolution 44, ratifying the suspension of certain provisions of Chapter 10 and Chapter 106 on March 17th, 2015, relative to dispensing, sales, and or consumption of alcoholic beverages at 436 Ashley Ridge for the St. Patrick's Day Party. Resolution 45 authorizes Arthur S. Kavanaugh and Mindy M. Kavanaugh, located at 10679 Goldsberry Road, to connect to the water and sewer system of the city of Shreveport. Resolution 46 authorizes, I'm going to give it my best shot here.
Ponciano.
Ponciano Hernandez and Margarita Hernandez, located at 9596 Wallace Lake Road, to connect to the water and sewer system of the city of Shreveport.
All right, I've got Councilman Jenkins, followed by Councilwoman Lynch and Councilman Corbin on the speaker queue.
I'd hate to steal Councilman Corbin's thunder since it is in his district. But since I just happen to press it first, on the one that is the first one of the two, the Goldsberry Road, that blue line is an existing water main. Is that city water main? Okay, that I won't even ask who paid for it.
Irish.
Okay, and this blue lane on the second is also in place already?
That's
Robert, you want to?
I mean, I cannot believe that sewer, I mean, that water main exists.
That's a long way from city limits. And
Okay.
looking at this map, does it dead, and Robert, I don't know if you can just.
Robert, you want to step up?
Please.
Does it dead end on Wallace Lake Road? Or does it go?
We are not engineers.
Okay, that's. You're talking about one where it dead ends on Wallace Lake Road, Councilman?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, sir, we do have a water main that dead ends down there. We're looking at trying to do an extension currently on some of the water mains on Wallace Lake Road in order to complete the loop.
Okay.
All these people connected to the city water main.
Well, let me finish my question then. If that blue line is indeed a city main, isn't it normally, and the red line is a smaller line, haven't we historically asked them to tie into the service line there?
Normally, we would ask them to tie into the largest available line that they can get to.
Okay. So directly into the 16, and I guess it's a 16-inch,
That is correct.
okay? Because I may be mistaken, and I'm going to certainly defer to Councilman Corbin. We've had a lot of discussions about people tying directly into the 16-inch main, and we have suggested that when there's an 8-inch, to tie into the 8-inch.
And I'm familiar with the one on Goldsberry. This one on Wallace Lake, it's actually closer to Councilman Fleury's district now than it is mine. But that 5-block area, if you will, from this request to Thorno Lucas, are there other homeowners who have tapped into the line?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong resolution. Excuse me just a second.
Yeah, the other one was straight.
46. It was a little more straightforward.
We've danced around that one for about 4 years, it's Goldsberry Road. So this one,
They're not. This is just 45. This is
Okay,
two
the
different ones. But they're asking
the
questions.
Wallace main going down Wallace Lake Road, that's only a 12-inch main. And that's what, the 16-inch on Wallace, yeah, they are connecting to that 16-inch main that runs down Wallace Lake Road.
but isn't that 6 or 8-inch water main also in that neighborhood? Or is that,
Is the red line the 6-inch?
I'm assuming that maybe that's not what the red line means.
No, sir.
That's sewer?
My map's not showing a red line, Councilman.
Yeah, so there's a red line that runs right next to the blue line.
That might be the center line of the road, but I will verify that for you, Councilman.
Yes. Well, then that may be the red lines that we see in that neighborhood. That looks like it's just running down the middle of each street.
It does make sense if that's a center line.
Okay.
I'll verify that for you.
Okay, well then, I mean, if there's no other line to go to, then that's not my, that doesn't answer.
There shouldn't be two lines there.
Okay, I was thinking that was a 16-inch down the main, and then those little grids were 8-inch, and I was like, well, why aren't
No,
they
sir, those
connected
are
into
center
the?
lines of the street.
Okay.
Okay, Councilwoman Lynch?
I have a question here where it has that it's not contiguous to the city limits. What's the significance of that?
Well, the 16-inch water main down Wallace Lake Road goes from the city limits there at Florida Lucas Road south to city limits collections as we get down there to Southern Loop and to some other subdivisions that were done to the south. And again, we are looking at doing some extension of some water mains on Wallace Lake Road in order to close some loops that would tie in with these, what's the name of that subdivision? St. Charles Edition?
St. Charles Place.
Yeah, St. Charles Place to tie into that subdivision down there close to Southern Trace.
They're gonna cause for annexation?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am, they're reserving the right for annexation of those properties.
Is the extension project in the current bond issue? Or is
It
this
is a
just something
project
that's
that is
way
being
down the
funded.
line?
I beg your pardon?
Being funded where?
It is a project that is being funded from money that is available through the bond issue and also through the revenue bond fund.
To do the extension?
Yes, ma'am,
You're
that is
talking about?
correct.
What time period is that?
We are preparing the plans now for that extension work to be done.
And do you remember what bond it was?
It'll be the 2011 bond issue money,
Okay.
as well as the revenue sharing bond money that was done last year.
Okay. Now, there were quite a number of homes in this Goldsberry area. So have the others already tapped in, or is this the first one?
Some of them have already tapped in, a lot of them have not.
When you say some, that's come through the council?
Yes, ma'am?
They'll have to.
Okay. Do you remember how many?
No, ma'am, I don't have the exact number. I'll verify that number for you.
What about the Wallace Lake Road?
We've had a few tie-ins to the sewer, to that water main, and again, I would verify that number for you.
Is this another extension project as well?
No, ma'am, that main is already existing.
Is there a reason it's under consent? Just
It's under what?
consent. Is this under consent?
Yeah, because I think it's just
Y'all
not,
just done
not
so
very
many?
not very
Okay.
controversial typically.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
Oliver. Well, actually,
Michael's next.
I got mine.
actually, Councilman Bradford is next.
I'm gonna go ahead and yield to Councilman Jenkins.
Okay.
Do you want to say something?
Yeah, okay, you just said that the water main for Goldsberry was part of the GOB, but it isn't because it was paid for by the parish.
That is, the water main for Goldsberry, that is an existing main that's been in place for a little while. Okay?
But it was paid for by the parish.
Some of it was, yes, sir, you're correct.
Okay, the Wallace Lake line, I mean, let me say this, maybe it's a little communication issue, but I have a hard time when we, in our 2011 bond proposal, when we say that it's to, well, on the water side, either replace existing water pipes and/or water assets.
Councilman, if I believe that is a revenue bond. That it is,
I'm
it-
assuming
it
it's
is
all
not.
revenue bond and not GOB, because
I
I
believe
think
that's
we are in a
correct.
little bit of a problem if we
Yes,
say
sir,
that
we
is.
would be.
Okay.
You're correct.
That's all I wanted to make sure, because I don't think we have that on
No.
our.
Well, I just asked him that. Say that.
And I'd just say for just global clarification, one of the reasons why it says on our agenda, I always assumed historically, whether it's adjacent to the city or not is a function of annexation.
Right.
So that's why we say it's adjacent to the city or it's not adjacent.
The other thing is another reason that's relevant is in determining revenues that come from it. For a water service, the water rates outside the city are double what they are inside the city. So it's just to indicate it's not in the city. But now but Oliver's absolutely right. The fact that it's not contiguous is showing it. In order to annex that, if that was their request, we would have to skip over some stuff and leave a hole, and we try to avoid that. So
Okay, Mr. Chairman.
yes, Councilman Bradford.
And my concerning question is, over the years, as I have sit out in the audience and heard the debate regarding allowing residents outside the city to tap into resources, it always been a concern of mine that we're taking resources within the city and providing it with outside the city citizens. And I've even been in conversations where it was accused that that's why we struggle in some instances to provide city resources to our own residents. Now, my question is, and we've had some deals or some situations where it wasn't profitable for us to provide services and things like that to outside entities. You know, I mean, the Bolger garbage pickup comes to mind quick, but what's besides getting a double rate of the water and sewer revenues, what other incentive is it for us to continue to provide these services?
As the city annexes additional property, as we get closer and closer to these particular areas, the intent is to, when annexation does get to their residents in their area, that these people agree to be annexed into the city without us having to go out there and get an additional request for them to be annexed. So by virtue of making the connection, they're pre-agreeing to annexation as we pursue in that direction.
Okay, that's nice.
However, obviously, you know, from the argument you're making, sometimes we don't want to annex, and sometimes there is the point of, you know, we need to fix the bad before we add, you know, that kind of mindset. So you're right to think, you know, look at it with some concerns.
There's both sides of that argument.
There are. So I mean, like it can be said with many things, one size doesn't fit all in these situations. You know?
Well, again, I think we want to look at opportunities where we can, you know, become a better city. But at the same time, I'm trying to ascertain at what cost, and if it's prudent that we continue to do this. And my question, I guess, and you can add all this together, is if the perception true that as we move further out southwest or southeast that we're draining resources from the inner city?
Anytime you do an annexation, there is increased cost to the city. However, in the annexation process, the amount of property taxes that is generated by the annexation offsets these additional costs to the city with regards to maintenance of the infrastructure system for that purposes, as well as servicing the citizens through the fire and police department.
However, the difference being that those numbers aren't always fairly weighted and reflective of the loss of property value. Those numbers would make absolute perfect sense if our population was growing and the demand for land inside of our city was growing as well. But with a stagnant population, continued growth diminishes demand. You know, we're one group of people that now have more land available to us that makes certain land less valuable then. So, again, there's different sides to the coin. You know, I mean, it is not a completely cut and dry kind of situation, but it is. You ask good questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You're a very enlightened chairman. I appreciate that because if we, you know, between the two. But I guess we in the process through the next few months we'll work our way through some of this because it is a concern. So thank you.
And Councilwoman Lynch and Corbin.
I'd like to pull 45 and 46 from the consent agenda.
Okay.
And what it was now, because you kind of threw me off when you alluded. Maybe you said it, but maybe you alluded to the fact that the revenue that we would get would offset the cost to the city for providing additional services. That's okay. I know you're not an economist, but I don't know. I don't necessarily agree with that statement, and that's what threw me off, made me forget my question I did have. Let me. Oh, this is what I wanted to know. Will they be charged inside city rate or outside the city rate?
There's a different rate structure. I'll let Barbara answer that question.
That's what I want to make sure.
Yeah, if it's, Mr. Chairman,
I want to make sure.
if it's a residence outside the city, they pay double the rates. And going to Councilman Bradford's question, sometimes that double rate does help us maintain some of our infrastructure in the interior of the city because they are paying double rates over what anybody else pays. So we take that extra revenue that is generated, which goes to water and sewer, and that helps us
If we don't make
maintain
exceptions on residents.
maintain some of our infrastructure in here.
Sure.
So it is profitable.
It is more profitable than somebody who's paying a half or the normal rate inside the city. I think each case could be argued both ways probably on whether or not it was truly profitable to the city to bring somebody in, and certainly the annexation is a whole nother question.
Exactly.
If I may,
It's profitable to the school board. Since they get 70% of the property taxes.
well, and let me say one thing, just to say, kind of when we had the real water shortages 3 years ago, it became a big issue because all those people in the parish needed water, right? Their water wells were drying up. And I'll say kind of the philosophy that I think most of us had at the time, I'm not claiming exactly, that if we had already had city infrastructure going by the front of somebody's house, we would grant them that because it wasn't any more out of pocket for us, right? They would pay to tap into the city line. Where we said no was kind of two issues. One, where if they had to tie in across other people's properties, under their properties, which is a huge problem in older parts of the city, is who owns these service lines and all the rest of it, or if it came to the city building water mains to provide this water, we said no thanks. And then the parish at that point worked out arrangements with them, some communities, to fund those water lines and then hand those over. So that's kind of one of the reasons why we've always asked where is the closest water main. You'll hear Michael or Jeff or I always ask that. And, is it adjacent to the city or is it, just near? So that's kind of where all this discussion came from, for a little background for you.
That's what Mr. Crawford meant when he said one size don't fit all of this.
Absolutely.
Individual.
Individual.
Yes.
And a lot of times too, and I think I'll let Councilman Corbin talk because he had clicked in, and I think he's probably going to say the same thing I was going to say, which is just a bit more background information. But I don't know. Go ahead.
No, I think a lot of the previous comments have hit on what I wanted to say before I push my button. But first, just a clarification is, although there's a lot of discussion up here about annexation, any vote for this is not to annex these properties, although the property owners do agree to be annexed at some point in the future. And I can look back on the last 4 years, and we've approved a number of these connections, and I can't offhand go out and point to any of them that have, since that time, been annexed or there's been a desire to annex. So I think that we're safe there. As Councilman Oliver Jenkins said, a lot of the connections in southeast Shreveport came about 2-3 years ago when people's wells were running dry and the aquifer was not replenishing. They did have a water main that ran in the front yard, and they wanted to be able to, or they asked, why can't I tap into it? And we had the capacity to do it. Our water and sewer department assured us of that, and so that's where we allowed people to tap into those mains, although they may live outside of the city limits. I think to further complicate the issue, if you will, and something that we have to keep in mind on some of these requests is our friends at the parish have helped these folks who live in the parish by helping to finance water mains in their neighborhoods. And the Goldsberry neighborhood is a good example of this, where that program was started at the request of those homeowners. That water line is now there for residents to tap into. So that door has long since been opened. I do think we have to take each of these individually. There's not a sweeping thing that every request is approved and every request is not approved. The parish has asked us that we don't allow people to run service lines over multiple properties. There are considerations when boring under a road comes into effect, but a lot goes into this. It is simply water. There is no sewer involved in it. It's just a water connection, and annexation is mentioned and agreed to by the property owner, but it is in no way a part of voting to allow them to connect to the water system. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And I think Art Thompson and Councilwoman Lynch. Are you good now?
That's all.
Okay, sorry.
I don't think that it was mentioned that this is an enterprise fund, and traditionally, the water and sewer services are paid for with fees, and it was only with the last bond issue, I believe, that we used any other city money to help with the cost of infrastructure for the water and sewer system. So these have basically not been that controversial when there's no additional cost to the city, and they're going to pay double the rate for the water services.
Thank you, Art. Does anybody else have additional questions about this? And if you do, I'm sure we'll be available to provide additional information. But I appreciate everybody taking the time to have that discussion. I think sometimes there's things that
Thank you, Robert.
those of us who may have been here a little while take for granted that maybe they seem normal to us because we've looked at these things a few times. So I think that was a valuable conversation to have, and I appreciate everybody for taking the time. If we could, let's move on to the regular agenda legislation. Mr. Crawford.
Resolutions on second reading and final passage, or which will require only one reading. Resolution 35 authorizes the institution of expropriation proceedings against certain described properties within the city of Shreveport in connection with the Wallace Force Main Project, parcel T20. Tomorrow, the administration will ask that that be removed from the agenda. There's been a deal worked out with the property owners there.
Good.
Resolution 39, authorizing the employment of legal counsel to represent the municipal fire and police civil service boards for the city of Shreveport. Resolution 40 authorizes the mayor to execute a Medicaid supplemental payment cooperative endeavor agreement with the Louisiana Ambulance Alliance. Tomorrow, the administration will ask that that be tabled. Resolution 41, ratifying the acceptance of a monetary donation to the Shreveport Police Department for the purposes of purchasing civil disturbance equipment, i.e. helmets and shields. I think Deputy Chief Huddleston will be wearing some of that to display.
Oh, my goodness.
I think they had some pictures that they provided to the council. Okay, good deal.
He's going to do that, or is that, well,
If the council wishes, we could probably arrange something.
I need to really get a model.
Resolution 42, entering into a contractual agreement between the city of Shreveport and ALSCO relative to providing water and sewer.
Am I supposed to do something on this?
I think you're
Oh, yes.
you're going to ask to postpone it tomorrow?
Yes, I'm going to ask to postpone that for 2 weeks.
42, getting postponed.
41.
42.
42.
So the administration, I'm just going to recap that section. The administration is asking to remove 35 and table 40.
Yes.
Correct.
We had no comments on 39 and 41. And then Councilwoman Lynch is proposing to postpone number 42.
Till next meeting.
Is that everybody comfortable with that? Any questions? Okay. Mr. Crawford, can you proceed with the introduction?
Certainly, Mr. Chair. Introduction of resolutions not to be adopted prior to April the 14th, 2015. Resolution 47 authorizes the mayor to execute a donation agreement between the city of Shreveport and Knisely Properties Incorporated, herein called owner, and acting herein through Jeremy. Is it
Nicely.
Nicely? It's just nicely.
Silent K.
Manager for the private water and sewer main extensions and related facilities to serve Norris Ferry Crossing.
Okay.
Resolution 48, authorizing the mayor to execute a donation agreement between the city of Shreveport and Southern Home Builders Incorporated, hereafter called owner, and acting herein through Edward
Gagne.
Gagne. Man, the names today.
I know.
Edward
We're good
Gagne,
for you,
manager, for the private water and sewer main extension and related facilities to serve Riverbrook subdivision units 3, 4, and 5. Resolution 49, stating the City of Shreveport endorsement of Twin Oaks Investments LLC to participate in the benefits of the Louisiana Restoration Tax Abatement Program. Questions there? Okay. Introduction of ordinances not to be adopted prior to April 14, 2015. Ordinance 21, amending the 2015 general fund budget, appropriating the funds authorized therein. Ordinance 22, zoning C 2015, an ordinance amending Chapter 106 of the Code of Ordinance, the City of Shreveport zoning ordinance by rezoning property located on the southwest corner of St. Mathis Drive and South Lakeshore Drive, extending 880 feet south, Shreveport, Caddo Parish, Louisiana, be and the same as hereby changed from R1TH, Suburban One Family Townhouse Residential District, to R1TH PUD, Suburban One Family Townhouse Residential Planned Unit Development District, with preliminary site plan approval. Ordinance 23, zoning C 2215, an ordinance amending Chapter 106 of the Code of Ordinance, the City of Shreveport zoning ordinance by rezoning property located on the northwest end of American Way, Shreveport, Caddo Parish, Louisiana, be and the same is hereby changed from I-2 Heavy Industrial District to I-2 PUD, Heavy Industrial Plan Unit Development District, with preliminary site plan approval. Documents on second reading and final passage. Numbers are assigned to ordinance numbers. Ordinance 20, amending the 2015 Airport Enterprise Fund budget.
Okay. Any questions about that one? And Mr. Thompson?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
on ordinance 20, second reading, I'm going to ask tomorrow, I'll tell her, the internal auditor, I'm going to ask her to explain Mr. Cooksey's remark at the last meeting, that's part of the minutes, regarding their, and you was at the meeting that you, audit review meeting where the auditor gave us some information regarding, I guess maybe 75% of those owners, those leases of those hangars are not paying.
Yeah, you're talking about the property tax valuations
Yes.
that aren't coming in correctly. So Bill is here right now, and so is Lennis. Councilman Corbin had also clicked in while they come up. Did you have
I just wanted to correct
clarification?
Mr. Bradford. It's not on the property taxes on leases of hangars. The property tax that was in question is on aircraft themselves.
Yeah,
And
so
how
that's
that
what it
aircraft
is.
is registered.
It's
Well,
not the.
let me hear.
That's right.
Are you prepared to respond to that?
Yes, that's correct. It's on aircraft. I
And-
did
and-
go back and review the minutes, and he was talking about hangars, but it's the same principle as well as the aircraft. I mean, if
So-
it's in the parish of Bossier but within the city of Shreveport, you pay city of Shreveport taxes.
Pay straight seaport taxes.
Yes.
And your report to us was correct in that some of the leasers are not paying
For the aircraft.
from the aircraft.
Yes.
Are you
Property
understanding
for the
this,
aircraft.
Mr. Cook? You understand? And I asked you regarding the hangars, and you said they was in Bossier, the parish, Bossier Parish, and that they was not required to pay city taxes.
And as I appreciate, downtown airport is located in Bossier Parish.
Sure.
And the improvements on the property, the hangars that are improved,
Yes.
that are owned by private individuals that lease property from the airport authority,
Okay.
I believe they pay a property improvements taxes for those hangars to
But,
Bossier Parish.
To the Bossier Parish.
but there could be some, because there are, and probably only in your district and my district,
Yeah.
maybe one other person might have a situation like this, but we do have a couple of unusual situations having the river, go through our districts. That, I have a few situations where it is a piece of property may be in Bossier Parish, but in the city of Shreveport. So those taxes that are due the city of Shreveport are still due to the city of Shreveport, you know. However, this situation, it sounds like, you know, if I remember, and I could be wrong, but I'm trying to recall, it sounds like this was more maybe an issue that the tax assessor needed to
For
work
the
on.
aircraft.
Yeah.
Yeah, we report it for the aircraft.
But it's something that we report anyway, but the assessor hadn't been.
No, that they weren't reported at all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Okay, when you say they, who is they?
The aircraft was not reported.
Okay,
And
the aircraft owner
Yes.
was not self-disclosing
Correct.
that they owned an aircraft in the city of Shreveport.
That is correct.
And, okay, following this track, so what happens next?
What was your recommendation?
I mean, what is our, is
What was
it,
the proposed
is it his responsibility to go put a little sticker on the plane and say, hey, you're gonna have to call the tax assessor and disclose? I mean, I'm just curious to know what is the,
Next step.
where are we doing next? And I think that's probably my.
Yeah,
Our
I think she made a
recommendation-
recommendation. to the
Our
administration.
recommendation was for the airport authority to submit those names to the tax assessor. And the tax assessor would be ultimately responsible for determining if those aircraft should be taxed, because they were in the best position to know.
So did that happen?
No, I think it's in the process. It was last month that the recommendation was made. I think Ms. Crawford, you was in the meeting,
I was.
and you was going to pursue those avenues in which those reports could be made.
Yeah, Mr. Cooksey is looking into that issue right now. I don't
Okay.
know if you've actually provided that information to the tax assessor's office at this point, Councilman.
We provided the information to internal audit today, actually the list that we do have. For downtown airport, we don't have a detailed list of every aircraft owner and their aircraft tail number. So what we referred internal audit to was the FAA's list or registry of aircraft, so they could go in and look at those aircraft. With more than 300 aircraft based at downtown airport, it is very hard for the downtown airport manager to keep up with each and every aircraft at that airport with her job. At Shreveport Regional, we provided a list of the tail numbers of the 85 aircraft that are based at Shreveport Regional Airport.
Listen, and I appreciate your statements. Again, we last week we was exposed to our negligence in taking care of business in Shreveport. I mean, the floods came and everything went haywire. Streets went haywire. Our drainage systems went haywire. I see opportunity of collecting revenue so we can address other issues. The internal audit explained to us that we may be losing revenue because we're not being prudent in identifying those owners who are not contributing. And my issue is simply that it's not fair to us, nor is it fair to those who are complying. And we wanted to see how we can best bring everybody under the same standard and try to, again, get whatever is due the city so that we can have revenue to do things that we need to do with. That's my concern, Mr. Cooks.
Yes, sir. And understanding that, we did provide the list to internal audit. We actually, I thought we had sent that list a few weeks ago. We had apparently a glitch in my email.
Okay.
And so we did provide that list. Staff did take a look at that list or the internal audit report, and some of the revenue expectations we felt like were overstated based upon the weight of the aircraft or whether the aircraft are actually for private use or commercial use. But from the staff perspective, we can certainly provide what information we have, which is the link to the FAA registry for downtown and the list of aircraft based at Shreveport Regional.
And the mayors and the administration have committed to at least look at this fully, and I think that would take some time, and we'll anticipate a review and a report back from the administration, when we find if indeed we can identify and bring everybody under the same rules. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Stay on it, Councilman. I'm looking for some money.
I'm looking for some money. Street repairs.
We do know many of the corporate aircraft, like the Shreveport Regional, I believe those are taxed because we recently, we've had hangar owners actually comment back to authority staff about the property taxes for the improvements on the hangars. Okay, so I think those were high teens, as well as additional taxes placed on the corporate aircraft.
Good. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that.
I got a long flourish.
Of course, about 50%.
All
Thank you,
right.
sir.
That being said,
I guess there's a lot more.
yeah, and maybe, I know at that audit meeting, that meeting was, I remember, somewhat cut short because of other meetings that had to take place that day. It may be good that maybe even, and certainly the audit department followed up with some extended discussion and recommendations by email. But it may be good, if the audit committee wants to have just another meeting to kind of go through that issue a little more in detail and some of the other issues that were on that agenda that day, just because, I think it was just a lot of information on the agenda that day, and with a number of new members, it probably deserves a little bit more time to be, discussed and looked at closer.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate that. And the thing that sort of stays in my mind is the areas in which, because of what we're not doing, that revenue wasn't coming in at the rate or at the demand in which we are giving services.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, certainly appreciate that. And now, Mike, are you audit finance chair?
Yeah, we'll get a
Perfect.
meeting together.
Yeah, if you can look at some dates, that would be great. I think really, I always find audit and finance committee meetings are always interesting, and there's always a lot to digest. So a little extra time at this early part of a new set of council members is probably well deserved and will help us all in the long run. So, so that might be a good idea. And let's see, where are we? I got. Do we have any tabled legislation anybody's mentioned?
Not aware of any to come off the table, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. That means that we are now at...
Chairman, let me ask, before we leave resolutions, Mr. Thompson, in regards to the gentleman out at the lake, American Legion people, did we find a resolution to their problem? I mean, we didn't introduce it on the agenda. I'm asking, did they not need our?
You're talking about the item that you brought to my attention?
Yes.
No, they haven't. You remember the last thing was the lady with the beer distributorship was to get back with us, and I haven't heard from her.
Okay. And I just didn't see it, and I just wanted to make sure that we wasn't shunning their request to try to get it done as quickly as possible. We'll work it out with them.
We don't have enough information to draw up any legislation in this.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll get back with the gentleman. We'll see can we work out something.
Okay. So I think we're at property standards appeals.
We are, Dorothy.
And while Dorothy gets up here, I will say I did get contacted by and have already mentioned to Dorothy about 333 Herndon Street, which is our second case. They were unable to make it today and have asked to postpone to the next meeting. So I'll go ahead and make that motion.
Second.
Okay, motion by Chairman and seconded by Councilwoman Lynch to postpone PSD 1300309 to the following meeting, which is April 13th.
Mr. Bowman?
And the motion passes unanimously. All right, thank you, Ms. Parnell.
Councilman Jefferson. The next case is in Councilman Bowman's area. That is 2806 West Maple Street. Mr. Sweat is present. The issue on this case was to find out if the property was occupied. It was, and what we're going to do, I'm requesting that you remand it back to the property standards so that we can issue a citation.
So he does live there?
Yes.
Okay.
That's surprising.
Is that a motion?
Yeah,
That's a
I'm
motion.
sorry, I was surprised, but I thought she was gonna say no, but,
I agree.
okay, a motion for you to, remand it back to the proper standing.
Okay, motion from Councilman Bowman, seconded by Councilman Fleury. Did I hear that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, this is to, and remove it from our agenda, right?
This is to remand it to the,
And remove it
and remove it.
from our agenda?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Bowman?
And that motion passes unanimously. Is that all we have today?
Oh, yes, sir, that's all.
Wonderful. Look at us.
I'm early tonight.
Beat them all down.
Oh.
I'll say that.
Go back to work.
Let's see.
People down up here.
So, yeah, we don't have any
We're doing our
NPC
job.
appeals.
We're doing our jobs. We're doing our jobs.
Amen, man.
Well, we're good. We had some good productive conversation about some items that weren't even planning on having today. And hey, we're still at 4 o'clock. I think we got time to get some more work done today.
Have we gotten to?
We are down
Meetings
to no ABO appeals. There are no NPC or zoning appeals today. And we have no, do we have any reports from officers, boards, or committees? Oliver.
Okay.
He's a-
Okay, I'd like to propose an infrastructure meeting on the 14th of April at 1:30. Whoever's on the infrastructure committee. But the substance of that is to do a deeper dive into 2011 bond projects. And we got a very nice overview here at the council, but what I would like to go over, assuming the administration's happy to support this, what I'm proposing, is that we go through project by project of all the 2011 bond projects. If they're already closed out, we close them out. I mean, we don't need to spend any, if you say, first 100 on this Excel spreadsheet, they're closed. We're good. I'm not interested in that. But we get this in process term, that it's in the process of being designed, bid. I just personally, and I know there are others, that need a little bit more than, okay, it is in bid or it's in process of design. Well, we expect design process to end such and such,
Gotcha.
or we expect the bids are out, this, once the project starts working, we expect the project to take 8 months barring snow or another, trench warrant. I mean, we understand there's going to be some change, but I think certainly for the three of us that have been here, we are kind of chomping at the bit to really know where we are in the process. And I'm not saying y'all are keeping it from us.
No. May I come in?
Yes, ma'am.
Actually, we've already instructed and directed our staff to get those timelines for the council and the public, because we too are chomping at the bit. We've been here 3 months now, and we're ready to make sure that we can continue to get those things done from the 2011 bond issuance. And so we are having timelines put in place so that we can all know. And we plan to bring those reports to you as things are done. Now, we can try to get the projected timelines on all of those projects that are left over if you want to do that immediately. We are
For that meeting is my hope. So that's 3 weeks' time from tomorrow, because we got an extra week, if I'm not mistaken, in this.
You're correct.
And so I thought that would, I mean, if y'all come back and say, can't get there in 3 weeks, then we come up with a different plan.
Okay,
And-
sounds great to me.
Oliver and I had a moment to discuss this, and one suggestion that, everybody may feel differently, but I'll just put my 2 cents where they're worth just for a second, I find it maybe beneficial as we communicate these things to the public if, certainly updated website is always helpful, but if we may just provide, and maybe it's a document that's just an internal document, but sometimes I think the most helpful bit of information to know is what is the next deliverable due date. You know, not necessarily just the whole, not everything about how it might be delayed and what might happen after that and this and that, but what can I expect next? You know, just so if we miss that benchmark, then I know there's a problem.
Right.
You know, like I know there needs to be some additional focus on it. And so we're not asking for an onerous reporting style, but just something that is accurate enough for us to communicate effectively to our constituents what's
great.
happening. So there might be some discussion of what that is, but I think we can come up with something that won't be burdensome, an additional layer of reporting, but that will still provide a very useful tool for all of us to communicate.
Mr. Chair, one of the things that the mayor instructed my office to do once I got here was to update the webpage. Some of the information on there was more than 2 years old. All the projects were updated from February, and you'll see a monthly update on there for the general information, but the detailed information that Councilman Jenkins is talking about, we'll be glad to provide as well.
Yeah, I mean, just like when the design phase
Gotcha.
ends, or whenever when we expect the
we've
phase that
already-
we're in, or he
Yes.
uses the term deliverable, when we expect, and so that's the concept.
Sure.
And I'd like to, at least for our first infrastructure meeting, that be the basis of that.
And I sort of
Good.
lean with deliverable, and here's why: is that you know, in design process, a lot of times the design contractor will, you know, come up with their draft, and then they submit it to our engineering department for review, who then submits a critique back. So sometimes, instead of saying it's in design for 6 months, if I can hear, you know, the draft from the consultant is due on this date, then I know that's the date that needs to be in.
Right.
And then if it's in our internal review, then internal review comments are due by this date. You know, just so I know what the next due date is.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
so that to me is a really useful way of keeping up with it.
We're on the same page.
Great, wonderful. Well, thank you
Okay.
so much. And I have Councilwoman Lynch is next on the speaker queue if you're done.
Oh, I
Oliver.
just did, I need,
I am
I need
done.
to see Shelley after the meeting.
Great.
That's wonderful. And also, I do want to apologize to members of the Riverfront Before Committee meeting. I was trying to schedule us a meeting before tomorrow. Wasn't able to fit it into my schedule, but we will have another Riverfront Before Committee meeting before that that first meeting in April. So do be looking at your calendars, and I'm going to send out some proposed dates for those meetings. And we're going to actually probably have 2 between now and then, as we discussed in that meeting. So you'll be getting some dates for that in the next few days. And Councilman Fleury is
Are
next.
we in communication with the council members? Is it okay if I speak now? Give other way now.
Oh yeah. I mean, you can speak. I mean, technically, we're under boards and committees. You know, so
Okay.
you can do it under that. Or
I just wanted to tag along with the veteran Oliver Jenkins, councilman, about this communication about, and Jeff and I had spoken about it earlier, and Mike, about knowing where we are on different things. But as again, I'd like to say that congratulations and kudos to Africa Price on the communication and press releases to the citizens on behalf of the mayor, that's letting people know what's going on down here in city government. So kudos to you for getting those out. For the fire department, who sends out information that's going on about fires and different things. People and the citizens of Shreveport like to know what's going on. And to the police department on their Facebook page. And so, as I said before, and I'll say again, in Cedar Park, Texas, the city government has a great website that they put tornado warnings, all kinds of things that are going on in the city. So I hope, Mr. Crawford, as you look at the web page and different things, that you'll keep those things in forefront. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councilman Fleury. And I see no other requests in the speaker queue, and if there are none, then we are at Mr. Thompson's song and dance routine.
I'd just like to remind all council members to wear your Sunday go-to-meeting clothes tomorrow, so that you can sit in front of the big camera and get your pictures taken.
We're going to have our yearbook photos taken.
Yeah, right.
Fantastic.
I gotta dust up that blue Flower tuxedo.
No, it's time to go to the meeting, not your fault.
Oh, yes.
All right. Sounds good. And then if there's nothing else, meeting's adjourned.
Wow, look at that. 1 hour.
And